Well, welcome to this week's Training Tuesday. It's great to have you all back with us again after the holidays. So Chuck and I are back at it again today. My name is Heidi Reese, and like I said, I'm hanging here with Chuck. I'm the trainings program manager here and just want to go over a couple of items before we get started. Everybody who has joined muted so that we don't have any disturbances or whatnot. But please feel free to use the chat functionality or the Q&A functionality in Zoom, and you can ask us questions throughout the presentation, and we'll take the question and answers in a mini session at the very end. As a reminder, each of these webinars are recorded, and then we put them on our YouTube station for Dayton Superior, as well as DaytonSuperior.com. Just search for Training Tuesdays, and you can see them all listed by the product topic where you need them to get when you need them. Okay, what else? So that's about all for the housekeeping. Let us say that this presentation is intended for training purposes only. For technical specifications on any of the products that are mentioned within this training that we're about to do, please refer to DaytonSuperior.com. So Dayton Superior, we are the leading provider of engineered solutions for the concrete construction industry, and we're here for your needs when it comes to the project. We focus on accessories, chemicals, forming, engineering, and training. And since we are that leading provider, we do, stand behind our products with all kinds of things. Accessories, we have tilt up, we precast, splicing. Whether you need chemicals for concrete repair and restoration, we have the solutions that you need, as well as the forming and shoring that is very adaptable with each of the systems and strong and saves labor costs as well. One of the great things about Dayton Superior is that we have the engineering team that can help you with bridge decks, as well as the use of tilt works, slab works, tilt works. If none of this stuff makes sense to you, we do have Training Tuesdays out there, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions or set up a lunch and learn, which leads us to the training. Chuck and I are very proud to be a part of the training organization in that we try to do these brief, quick, insightful 30-minute presentations every Tuesday to get you kind of understanding what's going on with the products. But a lot of them this is just the very, not the total frosting on the cake, so to speak. It is just a little dipping your toe in. And if you need more, your company needs more, get with us. There'll be a QR code at the very end, and you can scan that or simply email us at training@DaytonSuperior.com. and let us know what you need or think about need, and we'll get with you and get it going. So with that, you guessed it, Chuck Hoke is our presenter, and he's going to be talking about the bridge deck construction. All of the things that you see here flying on the screen are these solutions that I was referring to. I talked about how we had the splicing, so you see the products for taper lock, all of that, slab works, tilt works. So why am I showing you the screen? Well, all of the components, even though it's just bridge deck, is not just, it's a very cool thing. I mean, it's one of our biggest things with infrastructure, right? But we have all of, whether you need some chemicals to go with that, depending on where you are and what you're doing. Forming plays a big role in bridge deck, as does a lot of these various products and brands that we have showing here. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to discuss bridge data, and the US has that out on the website. We've grabbed it to show you here an overview of what the heck bridge deck construction really means and why Simons and Simons Formings, how can we help, and going over the products and accessories as well as resources. And let me just tell you a little bit about Chuck in case you guys, there's probably like, what, half a person out there who doesn't know you?
Yeah. Maybe. Might have.
Well, he has been in the construction industry for over 49 years. 20 of those as a dealer for accessories and forming and chemicals. So he's like the screen I just showed you. All these things coming up, he knows about them. 29 of those years have been with Dayton Superior, and we're really lucky to have Chuck. I know I am from a personal, we work together very well. I hope maybe he says it on the side that we don't, I don't know. But he's got the business and civil engineering degree that really contributes to a lot with this role. So he can do the engineering aspects, but he also has the smarts for the products and the overall knowledge, how to put them together, really a subject matter expert with all of this. So now I'm going to allow him to share this knowledge on bridge deck. Take it away, Mr. Chuck.
All right. Well, thank you, Heidi. And yes, we do get along very well together. So thank you.
You have to say that it's being recorded.
It's right. All right. So as Heidi alluded to, we are going to talk a little bit about bridge data, the bridge deck construction overview. We're going to talk a little bit about the products that are used in the deck construction, and also in the substructure, why we use Simons, why we recommend Simons, other than the fact that they are our sister company. And really, their product line really fits doing heavy civil work very well. So we're going to also talk about the resources that we have available. So let's get started with it. So the first slide we're going to show you kind of it's a chart thing from the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. They kind of give everybody the numbers of what's going on. And now with this last infrastructure package that was initiated back in 22, you see a lot of the money that was spent in 22 was basically spent in and on paving and also rail and transit was a little, even spent more on that than anything else. But you'll see bridge and highway was very minute. And primarily when the government actually issues one of these proposals for like the federal package that went through, bridge work typically is not shelf ready. They don't have jobs already designed, ready to go. So usually it takes a year or two once you're into the package for that money to actually trickle down into the bridge work, or the bridge jobs to actually become ready for construction. So when we're looking at it, in the US, and this is a sad number, but we have over 42,400 bridges across the US that are in poor condition. And as you can see, the numbers here, any of those states that are in the dark blue, the darker blue, are those states that actually have a majority of the bridges that are in bad shape. So as you can see, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Minnesota, or Michigan, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Louisiana, typically have a lot of their bridges are in a lot worse shape than most of the other states. The states in the purple are actually, they got 4 to 9%, 4 to 5%, excuse me, 4 to 5%. And that's actually not a real bad number, because typically you got projects on there that are upkeep for bridges, repair, not full general line construction. So, but any of the states that you see here, I mean, realistically, the whole country should be in the purple for what we actually have as a country. So when we're talking bridge deck construction, we're talking basically cast in place, precast steel, wood, or concrete. Yes, there is wood structures out there today that are they're engineered woods that are basically being developed for the concrete construction industry. And some of those bridges are taking the place of standard concrete bridges. So, but you're talking, what we're going to talk about is a lot of what components are actually made up of when we do the form work for bridges: sheathing, joists, ledges, posts, typical cast in place structures, plywood, interior, exterior grade, etc. All those things are typical terms you will hear when you're talking bridge construction. Some of the accessories: bridge overhang brackets, a BHOB. Those are typical terminology terms that you're going to have when you hear of a BOHB. It's a bridge overhang bracket. Everybody loves their acronyms.
Or it's a bob.
A bob.
A bob.
So, and then obviously we're going to talk a little bit about some of the chemicals that are used to control cracks or curing and finishing the concrete and actually repairing, etc. And obviously we're going to measure Simon's forms because basically we all have to have a substructure. And the substructure is that from the footers moving upwards to the deck. And obviously we're going to make mention on our professional engineering services. The engineering services here at Dayton Superior are second to none. They do a great job in developing a takeoff and a spacing calculation for you, quick and easy. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit further on. Let's start with the foundations. We've got to build up the foundation. So why use Simon's? Well, as you can see, Simon's has a solution pretty much for every and any project around. They basically, whether it be a pier cap, abutment, uh, hammerhead pier, what I'll call a flowering pier, where it actually starts out narrow and then flowers out up on top to spread out. We also have our STS because of the self-spanning capabilities within the STS. It can actually enable a lot of jobs to get formed a lot quicker, faster, and easier without having any additional support put in place. And Simon's actually has one of the best design teams in the business. I've used them for most of my 49 years in this business, and they do a tremendous job. The drawings are accurate, to the precise, to the point, and you can actually follow almost every step of the way. You can follow what the engineer is looking at, what he's trying to achieve. So you'll see that forming systems, they do a great job with the layouts. With forming and shoring, on the shoring side of things, if we have to get into a shoring where we may not be able to post up and use a standard bridge overhang bracket, let's say the beams are too narrow, we can shore it, and we can actually do the design structure with that. We can also design any of the walls, back walls with safety, like overhang with brackets, walkways, etc., all in place for you. So, like I said, Simon's does a great job with this and a great partner on the job site. Here's just some quick photographs of our STS self-spanning. As you can see, the pier caps here that are being developed here, these are I believe these pier caps are out in California, coming in and up. There's some really good size to them. They are going to be, as you can see, the pier cap down at the bottom right-hand corner. That one is actually going to be picked and erected on top of the two pier pedestals that are basically being performed there. So they do, like I said, a really good job. And obviously any custom designs, they can actually handle any of the custom design and manufacturing capabilities. So typically we like to actually incorporate as many pores in the job as possible, especially if it's a custom form. Hopefully you don't have a one and done, because that just drives the cost up for everybody. But because Simon's has been doing this so long, there's probably a good chance they may have an older form that actually may already fit the criteria that you're looking for. Simon's also has an overhang bracket system. Typically, it is a heavy-duty bracket system using heavy steel form. It typically is gang formed and set in place. As you can see in the photograph of it here, this photograph actually shows the form brackets being hung by the crane, being set in place. Typically, they put 2 or 3 brackets on a gang, with Maxiform as your formwork underneath it. This system here is a great system if you have a project where you have access with the crane from the ground or from the water that you can get to. But typically for this project to be cost effective, it usually has to be a continuous project of a few thousand feet. So a lot of these bridges here, typically in most of the states, don't fall into that. But where we see a lot of this being used is down in the Gulf Coast area, Houston, Texas, and a lot of the.
Would Panama City be in there? That's where I grew up.
a lot of the Gulf Coast area where you got bridges running over the Gulf Coast waters, Louisiana, Alabama, etc. But with that being said, let's talk about the standard bridge bracket. Standard bridge brackets, C49. Bracket was actually developed in the mid 80s, 1980s. It typically has a 30 to 50 inch vertical with a 54-inch horizontal. The deep bracket actually accompanies deeper beams when you have a deeper web, and that will adjust from 50 to 70 inches. The S bracket is a field modified C49. So it's not really a special bracket. It just basically is the standard C49 that has been modified. And we actually have a class on how to actually modify your C49. So it's extremely simple to do and basically enables you to kick your bracket down to 14 inches. Our junior bracket basically is half size. The bracket itself is about 27 inches vertically and horizontally. It also has a 3,750 pound load rating, as do the C49S, the C49D, and the C49. Now, we also have a C49C, extended capacity beam hanger. This is where we typically take a C49 overhang bracket and feed it steroids. And I basically accompany that with additional ribs for reinforcement, additional bolts in the diagonal legs, etc. We can actually get up to about a 7,500 pound load working with this bracket. But the problem is your coil rod that you typically use will not accompany that. And a lot of times when we use this accompanying product, it does relate into some additional expenses. So as we said, the C49 bracket, probably once again, the most used bracket in the marketplace. It's also the most copied bracket in the marketplace. Dayton Superior actually originated that bracket for the adjustability from the old C50 bracket that they used to have, which was all fixed legs. This was this next generation bracket that they came out with. And once again, it's an industry leader. We also have a C89, C89L heavy duty bridge brackets. Typically, you can get up to a 90-inch horizontal bar or horizontal table on top. Great for some of those bigger overhangs. You got to have a crane to set these. Primarily, you're looking at 50 pounds for a C49. When we're talking a C89 now, it's about 170 pounds. So big boy Chuck here is not going to grab a hold of it and hang it over the bridge bracket for you. So you're going to want to have a crane actually put that in place. So we also have, just because we have differences in the marketplaces across the country, we have a West Coast style bracket. Because of the seismic designs that are used on the West Coast, California, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, etc. They developed a bracket way back This bracket is even older than the C49. But the C49W basically uses a through bolt through the side of the beam. Typically requires a 3/4 inch through bolt, and you can actually set a heavy piece of lumber, usually a 3x4 or 3x6 piece of hardwood that would actually be your horizontal table, and then form up off of that to actually accommodate the deck. The yokes on the ends give you you can actually kick the end of the bracket way up in the air to give you a heavy sloping effect off of the deck. Now for hangers. Most of the bridge hangers, the C49 series, all require a 1/2 inch pressed steel hanger. Typically, you can have 1/2 inch weld-ons. You can have a dual hanger, which would do the interior and the exterior, or interior and interior, depending on what beam it's at. You also have precast hangers that can also be accompanied. The clips on the end are what are important, because each clip typically denotes whether it will handle an overhang bracket or a 90-degree to attach to a forming member. We also have some 15-degree hangers that will actually accommodate those beams that actually have a thicker web, so you can actually kick the formwork, the forming hardware, away from the girder, so you can actually attach nuts and washers to the coil rod without interfering with the beam itself. Also out in the marketplaces, we have some adjustable hangers for those people that are basically supplying material to bridge jobs. The C25 hanger, adjustable shaft hanger. Typically, when I was a dealer in this industry, that hanger was something that we kept in stock, but only kept a very small amount. Only used on jobs when you didn't have or forgot to put a hanger in place. And our option in our office we would call that the "oh shit" hanger, because that was usually the first word that came out of the customer's mouth when he realized he didn't have the hanger in place for it to attach to.
Chuck, you know we're doing this live.
Yeah, I know that. I used to.
So you got to give me a little warning, and
So, but we do have also other hangers that are available for it. The C25 HD. We have the Century hanger, which would actually accommodate your 3/4 for your C89 brackets. We also are getting into standard bracket hangers, C60 pressed steel hangers, both 90 and 45-degree, and we can accommodate with 45, 45, 90, 90, etc. So we can actually move those clips around on the end, whichever way you'd like when you order them. Now, hangers are basically developed here to accommodate a variety of different situations within the bridge construction. All the hangers are MTO. So all hangers typically are made to order. So if you call up today and want it tomorrow morning, there's probably a good chance we won't have it. So, but it does take typically a couple of days to get these things made up so that we can get them shipped out to you. Now, all the hangers are typically attached with a B14A or an adjustable coil bolt. And you can make that yourself by using 1/2 inch coil rod and a couple of nuts. I like the coil bolt, because the nut on the end of it is welded. So when you're done pouring your bridge deck, you can actually turn the coil bolt by putting a wrench on the end of the coil bolt with that nut. Typically 24 inch is preferable. Some guys like 18 to 20 inch, but the 24 inch gives you enough adjustability to fit most variances within the marketplace. We also have a C51 wall plate adapter. So if you have a wall structure that you want to use a bracket for a, let's say a scaffold bracket, you can actually attach this overhang bracket and make it into a scaffold bracket by just using the C51 wall plate attachment. And obviously we got guardrail receptacles. So we got to make sure that we'll keep everybody safe on these bridge jobs. And we also have a 20-inch work walkway extension. That extension will give you an additional 20 inches of walkway work, but the walkway is only typically designed to handle man load. It's not designed to carry any concrete loads, etc.
What about woman load?
Yeah, women load to people load. Now we talked about engineering. Our engineering department has gracefully attached themselves up here on our resource pages. They actually have a bridge deck information sheet that you can actually print off, or actually if you can copy it off or download it to your computer system. You can populate that, send it in to us, and we can run the calculations that look something similar to this, which is actually going to give you the spacing of the overhang bracket and the geometry of the bracket itself. So you're going to know exactly how far you put the vertical leg open, how far you put the weldment plate in where the bracket actually gets attached to the coil rod to get to meet up with the hanger. So it's a perfect 45-degree angle. And we can also produce calculation sheets for interior formwork as well. Now, this is a billable charge. We can also do it with a PE stamp if you need it for a PE stamp for your state. That is something that is totally acceptable and doable. We do it pretty much every day for anybody in the bridge market. And here we run different variances of lumber. We run calculations on bending stresses, et cetera, with the lumber being used on the projects. We can also produce a drawing that can be used for detail and layout. With this packet, you can actually take this packet and submit it to the state to actually have them give you approval to go ahead with the pour schedule. This is basically, we see a lot of contractors that actually use this as their submittal paperwork to the state for what they're planning on doing. Now, overhang brackets are typically put in place. Concrete is not the enemy here on the bridge deck for the weight of the bracket. The finishing machine, on the other hand, typically sits on top of the bracket. It rides on the outside edge of the bracket. And usually the finishing machine is usually 85% of the weight that the bracket has to support. So in today's market, because bridges are getting wider and wider, the loads on the brackets are becoming heavier and heavier because of the weight of the finishing machine. So that is the one characteristic that has hindered the brackets being used today, is the size of the finishing machines that are being required, because obviously the roadways went from being a 60-foot width normal to now we're seeing standard widths of 85 to 90 feet wide. And a lot of that characteristic comes out to the information we'll need on that is the number of wheels per side, the wheel spacing, and obviously the weight. And the weights that are achieved here, basically the contractor is the only person that can actually achieve that for you, because we don't know what options he has on his finishing machine. And let's not forget, with every bridge deck, we've got slab bolster to go along with it. So whether it be plastic, epoxy coated, plastic dipped, upper or lower material, We have a little bit of everything for everyone in the industry, and we can actually help you with the takeoff and estimating on that. And we get whether the bracket is sitting on concrete, wood, or even SIP decking. We can help you with that. So resources. Resources, we basically go to DaytonSuperior.com, technical data sheets, handbooks, marketing, contact information, find out who your salesperson is, whether you need technical assistance, engineering assistance, or even training. You can reach all that on the Dayton Superior website. Here we got a photo of some of our handbooks that are available and our technical data sheets, basically on products. You will find that these products here are basically best in the business. I mean, our handbooks are used by everybody in the industry. You'll find more information on engineering, estimating, etc., all within the Dayton Superior handbook.
Let me pause you real quick. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in right now. And you can do that through chat or the QA session. So what else we got there? We got the design calculations.
We got design calculations. Basically, once again, that is available on our website. If you have any questions on it, please feel free to give us a call here at DaytonSuperior.com. You can get us at 1-800-745-3700.
I'm impressed you memorized that.
That will take us into Dayton Superior. Then either just put in our extension numbers, but we can walk you through where you can find this within the state, or get a hold of your customer service reps and they can help you. Also, on the website, you will find maps that will actually help locate who your salesman is, where you're calling from. If you move from one area to another and you don't know who your salesperson is, you can actually look it up on this. His contact information is on that page, so you can feel free to give him a call and go from there. Or you can actually find customer service. Or once again, you could find Heidi and myself's number in there. Mm-hmm. With that, I'd like to say thank you for listening. And let's see, we have one question.
Actually, nope, that was me talking to you guys to get you all pumped up.
Okay.
So no question. And we're a little over time, so if you do have any questions, please send it in right now. I'll stay on the line a little bit longer. And we can get those, or go to training@DaytonSuperior.com, and we can help you out with that. So until next week, and I'll send you an email when everything's ready and out there online. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.